our center, as its name suggests. This webinar is a part of the process by which we endeavor to address the burning issues of the time and contribute in whatever measure possible to promote general well-being. This series of webinars have been organized on the occasion of Second World Food Safety Day. Prior to 2019, we have been only observing World Food Day on 16th October every year, where the food safety was one of the footnotes. I have attended many such programs organized by FICCI, CII, and other organizations, and I know that food safety wasn't the main concern. It was more how to feed the world. In fact, I was quite surprised when sometime in 2011-12, the Planning Commission was preparing a vision document for public health, and some of the top experts prepared that document. And in that document, the food safety did not find mention even once. This report was prepared in the backdrop of Millennium Goals. The Conference of the Head of the States of the World had set specific commitments for food safety while taking steps to reduce the world hunger to half within a decade. Public health policies in the past generally have focused on prevention and treatment of diseases from the medical angle alone, and not a holistic approach to a healthy life. It is only during the last few years that focus of the government is on holistic approach to the health of an individual that cares for the body, mind, and the spiritual needs. Safe and balanced food is a vital component of that approach. It is said that unsafe food is no food, as food by definition is what nourishes life and not what is a threat to life. A substandard food is also a long-term threat to the health of the consumer, which many a time we feel that substandard food or preparation, selling of substandard food is not such a big crime. But in the long run, that is more injurious to the health of the public. Therefore, whenever we talk of food, the food safety is an embedded element, even so if it has not been mentioned explicitly. Today, I have been asked to speak on the role of food regulator in food safety. Before we delve into this topic further, the perspective must be clear. Safety of food is a shared responsibility of all, from the primary food producer to everyone in the chain, including the consumer. If we look at the history of the mankind, food business is one of the oldest business in the human history. From the time the hunter-gatherer human graduated to settled cultivation, and some people started producing food as a profession, the foundation of food business was laid, and so was the food safety. The concepts of protecting food from insects and other vagaries of nature took roots. The life was, however, simple. The seller was to sell healthy food grains or other edible stuff, and the buyer was expected to exercise due diligence while bartering or buying. Later, as the range of products, complexities of food, its storage and transportation, and the physical distance between the producer and actual consumer increased, the need for state intervention arose. And the laws were framed, rules were framed. Like most other laws that are enacted after the necessity has arisen, first the problem arises and then the laws follow. The regulation of food business through laws have come about always as a follow-up to food safety disasters. In British India, the Indian Penal Code regulated the food safety by two provisions, namely Section 272 and Section 273. Sale of any adulterated, noxious, or unfit for food and drink items were punishable offenses, punishment being a maximum of 6 months jail or fine or both. The life was still simple, and it was presumed that the people would know when a food item can be considered adulterated or when it would be considered unfit for human consumption. An exhaustive law was legislated in 1954 called the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act and the Rules 1955, to which Dr. Halde just made a reference. In that, for the first time, a scientific structure was created. The concept of detailed standards for food items, food testing laboratories, elaborate enforcement structure, import regulation, warranty on the produce, notification of food poisoning, and penalties for various offenses were provided. The most notable feature was that the minimum punishment, even for what may be today seen as a minor violation of law, was sentencing for imprisonment for not less than 3 months and fine. However, the purpose behind such stringent provisions of law got negated by the very nature of the provisions. It was so draconian that it was experienced over time that many of the unintentional trifle violations also invited penalty of imprisonment, which the courts hesitated in awarding, and cases lingered on for decades. We all know the fate of such cases and how the tens of thousands of food business operators were making rounds of courts day in and day out. In the subsequent decades, with the progress of science and technology in the 20th century, the food science also progressed in leaps and bounds, leading to multitudes of new products, new technology, and processes for preservation, flavoring, packaging, storage, transportation, etc. These revolutionary developments also added new threats to the safety of food and public health in the form of modification of foods, new chemicals being used as additives, preservatives, processing aids, as well as residues of poisonous substances carried forward from the primary food. The emerging threats were dealt with by the government by various orders which were issued under the PFA and the Essential Commodities Act from time to time, modifying standards and fixing residue limits and orders like FPO, MFPO, MMPO, etc. However, the inspection-centric system was found unsuitable to the new economic environment that came about in the 90s, as it was felt that the PFA regime did not incentivize entrepreneurship and criminalized even the most minor offenses. The desire for reform and in integrated food law in India that started in mid-90s. There were various recommendations, requests from the industry, and finally that led to almost 10 years of hard work in the government, and the law materialized in 2006 with the legislation FSS Act, which was promulgated in 2011. And the PFA was repealed after serving the country for more than 50 years. The new law conceived a modern regulatory system that is designed to meet the needs of a free economy, gives full freedom for innovation, whose decisions are science-based, which continuously upgrades its knowledge base, which has a state-of-the-art technical expertise and infrastructure, and meets the expectation of the consumer. The food safety regulator is not envisaged as a passive umpire in the games played by various parties. A modern regulator, in order to carry out its mandate of minimizing the risk from unsafe food, is to be networked with the government, FBOs, centers of scientific knowledge, media, and above all, the consumer. It is expected to be independent, responsive, outcome-oriented, predictable, proportional, and strike a balance between protecting public health and not restricting market access unfairly. The FSSAI has been created as an independent autonomous body through an act of parliament, with ample measures of all these attributes which I have just mentioned. Regulatory policies are the combination of scientific decisions and societal expectations. Once its legal authority is set, the agency functions the best when it is independent of the political process. The predictability of a regulatory system also relies on independence. The industry cannot predict how and when regulations will be enforced if the enforcer changes every time the political regime does. Consumer trust depends on independence. The public needs to know that the agency is devoted to its best interests and is not unduly influenced by extraneous factors. Coming to the attributes, the responsiveness of a regulatory system involves two related functions. First is the ability to respond rapidly to a crisis. The regulatory system should be able to contain and correct any product safety lapse that has occurred, minimizing the health effects. Responsiveness also includes the ability of the system to promptly modify its policies. Responsive regulation keeps pace with the emergence of new hazards, changes in technology, expanding evidence base, and evolving consumer expectations. This attribute also includes the ability of the system to stay up to date and knowledgeable about new science. Responsiveness refers to the ability of the regulatory agency to continually expand its knowledge base, to be a learning organization that has internal scientific depth and effective collaboration with academics, and to draw on the technical and business expertise of the industries. It has to be a collaborative effort between the industry, consumer, scientific institutions, and the authority. The law empowers the authority to access the scientific knowledge existing in the country for its needs, as also to deal with the crisis situations. Section 28 of the Act provides for the food recall procedure by the FBOs on its own, under intimation to the competent authorities. And Section 34 gives power to the Commissioner of Food Safety to impose prohibition on the operations of the business. The outcome orientation is an important element of a modern regulator. The robust regulatory system focuses on product safety outcomes. The regulatory system stipulates manufacturing standards and inspection processes. An outcome-oriented regulatory agency has the scientific expertise to be abreast of changes in food technology and the modern equipment to analyze it. The Indian regulator has the benefit of advice of various scientific panels vetted through a high-level scientific committee. The Act also envisages modern NABL accredited laboratories to assist it in analyzing food. Besides, the nerve centers of food science anywhere in the country can be networked for science-based decisions. In addition, there have been plans to set up national level laboratories which will be doing the risk assessment and other research on new food testing procedures, etc., in the country itself. A regulator has to be predictable. Its procedures should be readily available to the public. Rules are applied consistently, enforced fairly, and are based on the best scientific evidence available at the time of the decision. Predictability assumes a level playing field and ensures against bias. A fair and predictable system does not work for or against large industry or in small industry, imported food or domestic food. With India being signatory to so many international conventions, the regulations have to be applied the same way to the imported and domestic products. Considering the elaborate system of rules and regulations framed for almost a decade now, after thorough consultation through an open process, the FSSAI has a clear framework guaranteeing that regulators' decisions are predictable, neither arbitrary nor whimsical. Just a second, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Another
Please continue.
notable, another notable feature of modern safety regulator is that its mandate is to minimize the risk from the unsafe food, not to eliminate it. It is just not possible, humanly possible, and even economically viable to eliminate 100% the risk from food. In a developing and economically diverse country like ours, the dilemma is where to draw the line. For example, in fact, this is one example from my personal experience, that on one hand, we may have a few million tons of paddy partially affected by moisture due to untimely rains lying in the farms and thereby not meeting the laid down standards. On the other hand, the farmers may lose their entire investment if it is not allowed to be sold. There are millions of people as well who may not be able to afford even substandard rice. That calls for a proportional or risk-based system that allocates controls based on threat to public health. Product deviations with possible serious health consequences are to be monitored stringently, while those with insignificant risks receive less attention. Products with similar risks are regulated in similar ways. Proportionality depends first and foremost on the ability of the regulatory agency to assess risk. It also assumes that the agency will consider a cost-benefit analysis when measuring the impact of potential risk management options. In a free market economy, some people always think of regulation and a regulator as an unnecessary impediment in their way. These sentiments are best expressed in the words of President Reagan, who once said, "The 9 most terrifying words in English language are, I am from the government and I am here to help." According to his perception, this is contradiction in terms. The implication is clear. The government regulators and bureaucrats come in, misunderstand the market, and just get in the way of entrepreneurs. Notwithstanding that, there is by and large a general agreement that an independent regulator is an improvement over the previous system where the food safety was dealt with in the same manner as any other crime situation. The free market operators also need an overseer to protect them from predators. Before I conclude and leave time for discussion, I once again recall what the WHO has said, and I quote, "Food safety is a shared responsibility between governments, producers, and consumers. Everybody has a role to play from farm to table to ensure the food we consume is safe and will not cause damages to our health." Through the World Food Safety Day, WHO pursues its efforts to mainstream food safety in the public agenda and reduce the burden of foodborne diseases globally. Unquote. It has also called to action. Number 1, ensure it is safe. That is, the government must ensure safe and nutritious food for all. 2, grow it safe. That is, agriculture and food producers need to adopt good practices. 3, keep it safe. Business operators must make sure food is safe. 4, eat it safe. That is, all consumers have a right to safe, healthy, and nutritious food. And 5, team up for safety. That is, food safety is a shared responsibility. In other words, the food safety regulator and food businesses have been reminded of their roles once again. There are questions about promoting safety of primary food, pointing to the need for more coordinated approach among the agencies that regulate agriculture and veterinary products. Similarly, there are myriads of food products that claim its origin in various indigenous medicine systems. but don't conform to the rigors of either indigenous systems or the normal risk assessment process. The system has to take cognizance of such products on a real-time basis to prevent any possible dangers to the public health. With this, I conclude my remarks. And on this World Food Safety Day, I wish you all safe food, safe life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gaur South. I mean, I just don't have words to tell about it. It is so nice that your presentation, your views and all. It is just like listening to something like the Gita of food safety. Your each and every word is an epic. It's something really we should go into our heart, not only to the brain. I mean, I think I'll just, I mean, there are two things, as you told. Food safety is a shared responsibility. And the message of Food Safety Day is that food safety is everyone's business. So this, of course, will go hand in hand. So Dr. Ghongratha would like to tell something, sir, at this point of view.
Thank you, Madhvanji. Thank you very much. Sir has explained everything what our provision provides for, and these provisions are kind of enabling methods to achieve food safety. But ultimately, like Gaur Sahab has said, that it is everybody's responsibility, whether it's food business operator and other people who are handling food chain, even agriculturists who are growing foods. They have a huge responsibility not to use those kind of pesticides or antibiotics or other things which will ultimately harm the food. But then sometimes we forget that consumers are the main stakeholder, and it is not health we'll be able to achieve, because if they don't bring to our notice and they don't demand, then maybe then food business operator or regulators, everybody will be relaxed, not trying to put in their best. And but if consumer is demanding, that is my belief, then everyone will deliver. And then end of the day, everybody is consumer, whether it's regulator, whether it's food business operator, they also eat food. So under Sir, we learnt a lot, like Halde narrated 2-3 incidents, and that is a very great learning for us that which we had in FSSAI. We were very fortunate to have him as our CEO. There are many life lessons in life which we practically learned from him. And like Halde also mentioned, that he's always very cool, which is very rare quality in human being, and it should be in everybody. But unfortunately, most of us lose our cool. To stay cool in the time of crisis, that is very remarkable, which we really envy, sir, from you, that you always stayed cool, and whenever there was any crisis, took decision very coolly, calmly, and rationally. In fact, people can take rational decision only if they are cool. So that's what I wanted to supplement. Thank you, Madhvanji. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think now we can open the webinar for discussion. If any questions or point of discussion is there with anybody, please come out. You can unmute yourself and come out with the questions to Gaur Sahab, to Dr. Ghongratha, or to me also. Anybody, please? Anybody in the audience?
Hello.
Yeah, please.
So, good morning, sir.
Yeah, Mrs. Siddhartha. Hello.
Yes, sir. I have one question.
Yeah, please.
Sir, effect of coronavirus on food. Is there any effect, sir? How can we manage this in food safety, food system?
Sir would like to say, Gaur sir would like to, or
I detail in, I think, in last one or two webinars which we had organized,
yes,
and
yes.
it has got many aspects. How to deal with the corona effect on the food, because it starts again. Anything which you consider, it starts from the manufacturing process to till the time you actually consume it. So the short answer to the question is that whatever guidelines have been given by various agencies, the government and the ICMR and others, regarding the protection of oneself and workers and the shop floor, the cleaning, the product packaging, its sanitization, its transportation, and when it comes to the place where it is to be delivered, then it's a sanitization and various protocols which have already been laid down by the government from time to time. So one has to follow that rigorously, because it cannot be partial. It cannot be that, for example, the food, if it is prepared by, let us say, a restaurant who has to deliver it to some consumer. Now he takes all the precautions, but the package when it arrives, or the person, that agency which is carrying it to somebody's house, is not following the protocol. Or if he follows, but at the last the mile, again there is some lapse. So the entire effort, that goes to zero. So therefore, the thing is that its only effect on this, if I have understood your question, is that how it will affect, or it can be transmitted through food. So that only can be stopped by following the protocols laid down for let's say various stages of food preparation and its delivery.
And sir, what about fruits and vegetables? This is an example of part foods. And what about fruits and vegetables, sir, which are sold by vendors?
No, fruits, as far as my information goes, which is that, they themselves don't get infected. Fruits and vegetables don't get infected. Their surfaces may carry the bacteria or the virus. Now, if you are careful to sanitize it, clean it properly, and when you are touching something infected, if you are from the food science, you will know that if you are in any, not only corona, any bacteria or virus, let's say infected or contaminated thing, if you are touching, there is a protocol how to deal with it. So if you are dealing with the fruits and vegetables, which is suspected to be contaminated, then you have to, basically take precautions to first clean its surface, keeping yourself protected. If you are cleaning it by hand, wear gloves. If not, then at least after cleaning it, wash hand and any place where there might have been some splash, etc., properly, and then consume it.
Yeah, I think I can supplement it, sir, with your permission.
Yeah.
So, see, food per se, as the definition goes, food will not carry the virus because food doesn't get infected by itself. But food, just like any other material, has got surface. Say if you buy an apple, apple as such, the inside of apple doesn't get infested. But apple's surface can get infested. If somebody has got COVID coronavirus and he or her his or her hands are getting infested, and he touches the apple surface get infested. So as sir was telling, no, we had to follow the protocol which has been conveyed to the whole countrymen by the administration, that the surface has to be cleaned, and there is a procedure also that we are supposed to follow. And you have, meanwhile, while cleaning, you have to get yourself protected. Otherwise, food per se will not carry the virus as such. as food that you are consuming will not carry the virus. Is it okay, Siddhartha?
Yeah, sure.
Excuse me, sir. I have one question.
Yes.
Myself, Amrapali. Good morning, God, sir. Good morning, Madhvan, sir. Uh, Sir, I want to ask that now that we are discussing about this coronavirus surface contamination or infestation on the surfaces of apple and all that, I want to know that how can a domestic level, at house level, like the homemakers can make the food which they buy from the vendor and all that, how can they implement food safety, because some, as I have seen lot of videos nowadays, it is coming on Facebook, it is coming on YouTube and all that, wash apple like this, add this, add this. So recently I viewed a video in which you have to add baking soda, clean it the surface like this. So as people ask us, we belong to food safety, they ask us how to wash apple, how to wash banana, how to do this, how to do this. So my query regarding that is, can we get anywhere this links or idea or videos where we can suggest a common homemaker or ladies about how to wash their food items like vegetables and all that, so it is easy for them to learn also to guard themselves from coronavirus. Is there any provision like that on FSSI site or anywhere?
Sir, Gangratha Sahib would like to say?
Huh. If you see FDA website, you will find these kind of instructions, and even videos are available there, which tells you in these circumstances of COVID-19, how to handle this fruits and vegetables, especially, and other foods also. Like it has been mentioned by Gaur Sahib and Mr. Madhavan, that per se, food is not a carrier of virus. But yes, it can come on the surfaces. Then, like for a fruits and vegetable, they say if you wash it simply with running water, that will do the trick. Secondly, because it is a lipoprotein and not stable at higher temperature. So whichever food you cook, whenever you cook food, there are no chances that it will stay in food. Yes, in cold temperatures it can stay, but then you have to follow the precautions of washing the packaging wherever you are handling it, so that when you are if somebody is suppose, why they say that be careful while buying vegetable and fruit, because it can be virus can be on the surface of the fruit or vegetable, and you touch that surface, so it comes in your hand. If you wash your hands or you don't wash your fruits and vegetables with running water, it will be sticking there. So how to remove that? So it is not getting into the fruits vegetable, but nonetheless it will stay. It can stay on the package. It can stay on the surface of a table. So those normal precautions in these situations which we are taking, that keep washing in our hands. Even if it is in my hands, it really doesn't matter. But if I take that hand to my mouth or nose or ear or eyes, then there will be problem. If it stays in my gut, even it doesn't harm that way. But then it will definitely harm once it is somewhere else and you touch it. It enters your mouth, nose, or somehow it goes through your trachea. That is the problem, basically. So you have to avoid that. How do we avoid all these precautions? What they have given, whether even FDA, they have elaborate instructions. Even FSSAI has, Health Ministry has, even WHO has. You go to their website, they have all instructions. But basically, we have to take care. The crux is that it is like any innate organism. It's not a per se living organism in that sense. So it can be there, and if you touch it, and enters your body through nose or mouth, it creates problem. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Anybody else, please? Any
Thank you,
question?
sir.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Good morning, all. I'm Sakshi Manoj Desai from Maharashtra. So I
Good
have a
morning.
question that what kind of precaution should we take if we are dealing with the packed food? So that's my question.
Yes, sir. Bangadharaji.
Like I mentioned on package, we have to take package precaution because the people who are handling the packs, there can be problem. If it is a packaged food, it definitely comes with some kind of process which we follow to preserve the food. In any kind of process we follow to preserve the food, then it is not there. The COVID cannot enter that chain. But yes, but when we are handling the package, whether it's a pack again within a larger pack, there are chances. Like I mentioned, that you can wash the package when somebody is handling there, because there may be some issue when somebody is touching that food from outside. So that minimum precaution has to be taken. That how do you clean it, or if package is good enough for plastic package, then you can wash also. But if you use running water, even then it goes off.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else, please? Anything to do with food safety? I think if no questions are there, I think we can close the webinar. I think that's enough, sir. So I thank you, Gaur Saab, Dr. Hindalkar, Dr. Jain Saab, and Dr. Prabodh has already left. So, and all the participants for attending this webinar. The second of the series of webinars that Center for Quality and Food Safety is conducting during this Food Safety Week. Food Safety Day is on Sunday, that is 7th of this month, that is day after tomorrow. So, Center for Quality and Food Safety will be associating with Association of Food Safety and Food Scientists and Technologists India, who is celebrating Food Safety Day on 7th of this month. That is on the evening 5 o'clock. Most probably the CEO of Food Safety Authority and Food Safety and Standards Authority may join us, but not confirmed so far. I request all of you to join us again tomorrow same time 11 o'clock, during which the Food Safety Commissioner of Gujarat will be addressing. He'll be addressing on the theme itself, that food safety is everyone's business. So I thank you once again. Thanks to each and everyone. Thanks to Gomrataji, thanks to Jain Saab and everybody, and of course to Dr. Gaur Saab, who has really enlightened us with his knowledge, with his experience, with his words of advice. Thank you, sir, and thanks everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm winding up the webinar. Thanks.
Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dhanya, for coming. Thank you, Sakshi.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, bye, bye. Thank you. Thanks a lot. See you tomorrow. Okay.
Yes, yes, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, goodbye. Tomorrow and day after is also there. Day after is a different time. Tomorrow same time 11 o'clock. And Sunday we have at 5 p.m. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
ഹലോ ധന്യ.
ഹലോ സർ.
എവിടെയാ കാണുന്നില്ലോ? ഹലോ
ഹലോ.
ഹലോ.
ഒരു മിനിറ്റ്. സർ.
ഹലോ എവിടെയാണ്?
Sir, the video is not all. There is.
Okay. ലൈറ്റ് ശരി, ലൈറ്റ് പറകുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് ഫേസ് കാണുന്നില്ല ശരിക്ക്. ലൈറ്റ് പറകുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് ബാക്ക് സൈഡിൽ നിന്ന് ലൈറ്റ് വരുന്നുണ്ട്. വസന്തേ.
ഹലോ.
വീട്ടിലെല്ലാവർക്കും സുഖമാണല്ലോ? കുട്ടികൾക്ക് സുഖമാണല്ലോ? കേൾക്കുന്നില്ലേ?
ഹലോ. യെസ് സർ.
കേൾക്കുന്നില്ലേ? ഹലോ.
ഇപ്പൊ കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട് സാറേ. വീഡിയോ ഞാൻ ഓഫ് ചെയ്തു.
അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെയാണോ? ഓക്കെ.
വീഡിയോ ആകുമ്പോ എനിക്ക് ഓഡിയോ ഒന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
അത് ശരി. ഓക്കെ.